going on?
John, can you hold it?
Why?
Thank you.
Why are we here? Why do we come here? Why are we on this path? Why are we seeking? Why are we searching? Why? Has nothing to do with any of us. As to the why. All the patterning, even the notion of a me, even the thoughts that seem to manifest locally here, we still believe that there's a me that needs to recognize that it's not this or that. Okay? Now, if there is just one, if there is just absolute one, non-duality, one, then none of us sitting in this room are responsible for any single solitary thought, even the idea of a me being here. None of us are responsible for that. Because what also gets manifested through the so-called individuals is an idea of a me that's here, which is source. It's source that's responsible for every single thought, every single feeling, every vibration, every emotion, even the idea that there's a me here is all coming from source. You can check it out. You know, when you're asleep at night and you're dreaming, and all sorts of stuff manifests in a dream. Who's doing that? You? Are you creating the dream? Who the hell's doing that? It's so full on, the dream, that there's even me, the dreamed character, in the dream. Who's doing that? That's a movement of energy. There's pictures, images, there's mountains, trees, people, all everything that happens in this life can and does get experienced when you're lying on your bed, sound a bloody sleep at night, dreaming. But you are not the dreamer. You're not creating any of it. What is, if not you? Now, the exact same thing applies to this so-called waking state that we believe we're in. We believe we're awake. What's the reference point? Well, I know what it's like to be asleep when I'm lying on my bed, dreaming. That's my reference point. What we're waking from in this so-called waking state is the belief in the dream that happens and occurs in this waking state. Exactly the same. Whatever arises in the dream when you're asleep, it arises in this what we believe is the awaking state. It's another dream state. It's absolutely another dream state. And you can watch it. The idea is to become aware that all of this, including the so-called selfing, can't have anything to do with the so-called individual self. Because you'd fucking stop it. Come on. You would stop it. Every single problem that a human being has manifests between their bloody ears. All of it. All of it. It's what I think of a certain situation, or it's how I want things to be, or it's how I can't accept the way things are. Where's all that information coming from? In here. And none of us are doing that. None of us are responsible for that. So if you look closely, what is actually happening is source dreams every single one of us sitting in this room into this. There is only source. There is only that. Otherwise, non-duality is a crock of shit. It is. Or it's some sort of concept and I've got to try and get my head around it, and eventually me will come to understand what non-duality is. Give me a break. There's two straight away. Me and the understanding. So all that's happening, there is no individual me sitting here that has free will and can choose whatever it likes. Can't. It totally can't. It's all a dream. Why do you think this is called an awakening? What are we awakening from? Really? If we are constantly told you already are that, I'm not going to awaken from that. If I already am that, that's a given. I already am that. Okay, so what am I awakening from? That there's no me here. That it is all a dream. And please, look at what happens when you're lying on your bed at night, sound asleep, and there's dreaming going on. Where's the me then that's responsible for that? Where is it? Where's the me that's separate from the dream that's occurring in here when we're asleep at night? Where is it? Can you actually say, here I am and I take full responsibility for the dreams that occur when I'm lying on my bed, sound asleep at night? I do that. Who you believe yourself to be is the character in the dream in that moment. And it seems extraordinarily real whilst you're in the dream. Whilst we're in the dream here. We're in the dream here. We think it's real. We think there's a me. We think there's stuff happening. And it's not. When you first wake up in the morning, when you first wake up, there's the absolute recognition, whether you're aware of it or not, it is there. There's the absolute recognition that you are now awake compared to what you thought you were or believed yourself to be in the dream when you were lying on the bed sleeping and dreaming. The me that was in there. And sometimes that can even take a moment to get over, depending on what the dream was. Sometimes you can wake up in the morning, bang, you just wake up and the whole dream just disappears. There's just absolutely no interest in it. And the me character that's in that dream cannot know what it's like to experience being awake. It can't know. The character in the dream cannot know what it's like when you wake up in the morning. It can't experience that awakening, because as soon as that awakening in the morning happens, it disappears. It's gone. It's exactly the same here. It's exactly the same. That's why that analogy gets used so often and has been used so often over the years. The dream state. Why do they say that? Maybe they mean it literally. It is a dream. I've got no idea how, as Steve was saying, it was beautiful hearing you share, Steve. I've no idea what this is going to do next. I have no clue. But it's a buzz sitting back watching it. Same as the other thing I wanted to touch on was all of this manifestation that we see around us, as Bob eloquently points out, is nothing but a vibration of energy. All of it. But and it all, when it's interpreted as being split. It's interpreted as being dual from this perspective. Yeah, the mere fact that we say there's movement. Yeah, for there to be movement, there's got to be one point there and one point there. Yeah. We take it to be real. We take it to be, and don't get me wrong, it is real. That's the paradox. It is real. It's just not what we perceive it to be. Why not? Because the senses that we've got here are so limited. So limited. Especially the sixth one. The mind. That is so limited. All it knows, all it can understand is duality. That's all. That's why Bob says you'll never find the answer in the mind, because that's how the mind functions. It's the mind that creates the idea of duality, of the split. Just the mind that creates that. What's the one thing that you sitting in this room, in this so-called body, if you took it away, the one thing, if you took it away, this couldn't be here. And I'm not talking about the life or the essence, I'm talking about practically sitting in this room, here in this manifestation, what's happening here. What is it totally dependent on? Space. Now, is space split? Is it dualistic? Is it whole? Is it non-dual? Space I'm talking about. Just pure, empty space. Does it care about anything? Now, without that space, none of this seeming manifestation could be here. And we give it absolutely no attention whatsoever. Only time we generally give it attention is if, we're faced with the notion that, shit, my car's broken down, I've got to walk 10 kilometres that way in space to get to the nearest town. Then space becomes an issue. If it's only me that would say that. So, this source, or this that's being pointed to, which can only be realised when there's the absolute recognition that this is a dream. All of it is a dream. My meanness is a dream. We're being lived or dreamed into existence with the belief that I am. There's me and I am. So that's being pointed to is not dissimilar to that I was just pointing to. Space. Space ain't dual. It's not dualistic. But we need the space there for the so-called duality to arise in. Distance, time, here, there, up, down, left, right. Without that space, none of this manifestation would arise. So, there's space back here, without which space wouldn't arise out here. If you want to start getting right back to source, absolute source. Without this, there would be none of this, including space. Space-like awareness. That's why it's called that. Space-like awareness. But it's source. It's responsible for everything and nothing. The great paradox. So it's seeing that. It's seeing that. I mean, I can tell you it's this and it's that and it's not this and it's not that. But until you look for yourself, it's all... If one's trying to get an intellectual understanding of this, you're wasting your time. Totally wasting your time. But if you actually are earnest and you stop, pause, and have a look for yourself, you will see. You know, to get rid of the notion of me, to get rid of the whole idea that there's a me here, which is the idea that seems to get in the way of awakening, to recognize that is just to recognize that without one single solitary thought, if there was not one thought that arose, there is no me. Not one image, not one thought, one story, whatever you want to call it. If that ceased, there is no me. And what you'd be left with is, they've been telling me I already am that, and here I am. I am that. I'm here, and I've never actually been anywhere other than here. What gets in the way of that is this idea or this notion that there's a me here. And all that is thought. Nothing else. And it's recognizing that you're not responsible for any of it. Zip. Until you reach a point where you realize you're responsible for everything, including every single thought that is happening in these so-called people sitting in this room. But the notion of an individual here has to be seen through. It's got to be seen through, because that's the problem. That's the problem. Nothing else. Nothing else. There's an idea that there's a me here, present, and I'm an individual. That needs to be seen for what it is. And even that idea that there's a me here and I'm an individual and I'm trying to get this and I'm trying to learn non-duality and I'm trying to let go or I'm trying to better myself or whatever, Source is responsible for all of that, those thoughts, those ideas. There is no me here that's responsible for that. There isn't. If there was, again, really simple, I don't know about you, but I would just switch it off for a couple of weeks and go fishing. Really. Turn it off. Turn it off. Whatever it is that's manifesting in the so-called personalised individual mind, just turn it off. It'll be there in a couple of weeks, I guarantee you. You can just switch it back on again and boom, the whole play will come back. We just switch it off and go fishing. You can't. You can't. Why? Because it ain't you doing it. There's no you there doing it. It's not you doing it. If there was, you'd turn it off. You literally would. You literally would. You'd never have a bad thought. You wouldn't. Why would you? Why? Why would you? Why would you? Not responsible for any of it. But sometimes, you know, what was alluded to earlier, sometimes bad shit seems to happen in our life, you know? I go, Jesus, why me? What have I done? You know? And in my experience sitting here, the worst shit that ever happened in my life got me sitting here. And if it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be sitting here.